In your opinion, what are the reasons behind the downfall of Northampton Town Football Club? Only just 2 years ago they were in League One, and now they're perhaps going out of the Football League.
Yeah, it doesn't look good, does it? The last couple of years have been just terrible. It's been a downward slide. The reasons for it, poor management at times. Gary Johnson came in this season and brought in 20 plus players, none of whom have been a revelation, none of them were really good enough to stay the course, and that's been proved by the fact Eddie Boothroyd has had to change pretty much the entire squad to give them even a chance of escaping the relegation zone. Previous seasons, well, as you say, they came down from League One with Stuart Gray. That relegation hit them hard. They thought they'd be able to stay up. They couldn't. Stuart Gray didn't really seem to have the motivation to keep them in the division, or at least wasn't ready for the fight that next season. And it just feels as though there's been an element of bad luck as well as bad management. And those two things have combined. Has there been a sense of Northampton feeling they were bigger than the position they should have been in? Possibly, but there can be no doubt now they're in serious trouble, and they can have no sense of grandeur about the position they should find themselves in.
So talking about the managers, do you think the chairman's decisions of sacking the two managers of Stuart Gray and Gary Johnson and the introduction of Eddie Boothroyd in the space of just a year, do you think that can be justified? Fans
will tell you that Stuart Gray might have gone sooner, actually. David Cardoza is quite a loyal chairman, all things considered. Stuart Gray, he'd overseen the team being relegated from League One. He came in, it got more than halfway through the season before he decided to make the change for Ian Sampson. And potentially, if that had come sooner, the season might have ended up slightly differently, or Samo would have had more of an opportunity to put his stamp on the side. With regards to Gary Johnson, he got a fair crack at the whip as well. His previous record suggested that he would get things right given enough time. After a while, I think David Cardoza and the fans, especially, who were really getting on Gary Johnson's back, felt that time was he'd had enough time to make things right. And I think David Cardoza probably can be justified in getting rid of those two managers when he did. Perhaps could have been even slightly sooner in the case of Stuart Gray.
Yeah, obviously the club will need to win games, but ultimately, what do they need to do to get out of this relegation battle? Do they need to put in certain players into the team, or what do you reckon?
Adebao Akinfenwa needs to stay fit. He absolutely needs to stay fit. Remarkably, he's one of the top 3 goal scorers in League Two, and this is a team that's been in the relegation zone for weeks. He's on fire at the moment. If they keep him fit, he's such an important part of the way Northampton play, then they've got a real chance because he's firing. Last 5 games they've won 3, they've drawn 1. They even had a chance to get a draw out of the Port Vale game as well.
Should have beaten Cheltenham, if I remember rightly, yeah.
Exactly, should have beaten Cheltenham as well. So they're playing well at the moment. They're still conceding silly goals. I'm not sure it's a question of certain players need to play. Adebao Akinfenwa could really do with some support. He could do with the likes of Brett Williams getting on the score sheet. He could do with Jake Robinson breaking his duck for the season as well and getting a bit more support. Whilst he's firing though, I'm very, very confident that they'll get out of the position that they're in. And it's a question of winning those key games. Dagenham and Redbridge away very, very soon, that one coming up. That is key. They can't afford to lose that kind of game. Important games coming up.
Well, we'll come on to the running. So, the next 5 games at home to Aldershot. Obviously, you said about the Dagenham away, and then away Accrington Stanley and Burton Albion. At home to Plymouth and away to Crewe. So, important games coming up. What do you think?
Well, I think they should be aiming for the same run they've just been on in the last 5 games. 3 wins, a draw, and you could probably accept 1 defeat in there as well, because that's not just escaping relegation form, that's playoff form, something like that. So that's what they need to be aiming for now. The difficulty is, I suppose, for Northampton, is that things aren't particularly static down at the bottom of the table. Teams down there are still getting results, the likes of Hereford and Macclesfield, even Dagenham and Redbridge picked up a win just recently. So it's not as though a couple of wins will get them completely out of trouble. Those 5 games you've listed, yeah, there's absolutely no reason why they shouldn't be the likes of Plymouth, certainly. Dagenham and Redbridge, they should win there, even though it is away. I suppose a couple of tricky games. Accrington aren't quite the force they were last season, but even so, another game you should really be looking at for 3 points.
We'll go to the final run in. The last 4 games are away to Crawley, who are at the right end of the league, away to Hereford, that could be a 6-pointer, and home to Gillingham, and away to Rotherham. What do you think will happen in the final running?
It's not the easiest, is it? You look at those games. I think you'd want to be safe by then, if I'm completely honest. Rotherham away is your last game of the season. That's not going to be easy, but what I will say is by then Rotherham should be comfortably mid-table, nothing to play for. And you would hope that Northampton have it in them to get a result there. At the same time, that's their last game, Rotherham's last game at the Don Valley Stadium. So it might be important for them to finish on a high at that stadium and go out with a bang. So they, in some respects, do still have something to play for if they want to send their fans home happy from that ground. So that's not a game I'd be looking at to have to get 3 points out of, because I think that last game in particular is going to be tricky. And as you say, Crawley, they'll still be competing up at the top of the table, so they will not give up anything easily.
Away game to Hereford.
Hereford's
the biggest one.
Hereford is the biggest one. Yeah, definitely. In that, certainly in that last run-in as well. That could be very, very important indeed. It really is the Dagenham, Plymouth, and Hereford games in the run-in that Northampton have to be looking to take 9 points out of, as much because it prevents those sides from moving any further ahead from them than it would be for them to hopefully jump above them.
Just coming away from the fixtures as such, there's obviously a big student population in Northampton. Do you think the club could be doing more to attract those types of people to Sixfields?
Good question. They need to be appealing to all different kinds of parts of the population, because they want to get that attendance up, ideally over 5,000 for every game, and that hasn't happened probably often enough this season. Results is a big part of it. I think if you're getting the right results, then people will come. As for appealing,
the cost as well, isn't it?
The cost, yeah, exactly. I mean, the cost is a difficult one. I look at games in the conference and they're still charging £18 for games, £16 to £18 for games. Some teams, anyway, just down the road at Kettering, that's what they charge for adults to come into games. So I think it's important that teams do have some kind of concessions in place for students, because students can, I'm not saying always, but can have more disposable income, which means they can get to games. There can be the interest there in a local side, particularly if they come from somewhere else in the country and they want to watch football. So could Northampton be doing more? I suppose so, but only insofar as every club could really be doing more to attract more fans into their ground. And it's that delicate balancing act between charging enough that you get a good income from those fans who'll come even if you lose every game in the season, and making it attractive to people who may not be all that interested in the team to start with.
So, final question. Try not to sit on the fence. Are Northampton getting relegated this season?
Northampton won't get relegated this season, no. I think Eddie Boothroyd was a really good appointment. I think he's made huge changes to the playing squad. It's completely different from Gary Johnson's side. The spirit seems a lot better. The players that have been brought in have already played some key roles. You look at the likes of Luke Guttridge, you look at what Clark Carlisle has done in terms of leadership and freeing up John Johnson from being the captain and leading that back line slightly more. Okay, they're still conceding silly goals, but I do feel like there's the firepower there, Bayo, if Bayo stays fit, that they shouldn't find themselves in a relegation battle, I would hope, for too much longer. I'm very, very confident that they won't be going down this season.
Okay.
Let's go to the book.